Before we get into the video, here's a bit of backstory. So, I had the idea to port a level from Mirror's Edge into Super Mario 64 a bit over a month ago, but this proved to be really frustrating. I couldn't just find a copy of the level online, just a lot of really cool recreations. Extracting the file seemed fruitless because it's not one individual map, but instead a gigantic citywide map, so I'd have to export the entire game and recreate it. It wasn't gonna happen. And I didn't really feel capable or ready to painstakingly capture images of the level and recreate it in Blender, so I'd kind of just dropped the idea. Then out of nowhere, at least from my perspective, I hear about this cool new rom-hack level editor called Mario Builder 64. It looks amazing, maybe even too good to be true, but it's real, it works, and I made a level in a short number of hours, far quicker than if I had tried to go the route of making my own rom-hack from scratch. We'll get into my level, but later, because first, I want to give you some background info. Mario Builder 64 is a ROM hack made by Rovertronic and Arthur Tilley. It is set up by patching your own copy of Super Mario 64 with a small file that you can download at the links in the description, and then once you got it going in an emulator, you can create or play levels which are saved as .mb64 files. They're pretty tiny and are quick to download and play. For this video, I downloaded 10 or so levels from levelsharesquare.com and Rovertronic's Discord, both places where you can find a bunch of Mario Builder levels. First off, Athletic Clifftops by Shawnee Productions is a great beginner level. It has 7 stars to collect, which might sound like a lot, but the 5 non-coin stars are found at the end of paths that are pretty easy to follow from the initial platform. Said paths are fairly diverse. One has you racing Koopa the Quick, another features daunting pole jumping, and yet another ends in a little fight against King Bob-omb. Getting tossed into the void by him definitely stung, but dying resets just the coins, not your collected star count, so it's not that bad. Speaking of coins, you'll need to collect 140 coins for the star rather than the usual 100, something unique to this level, so that's fun. Next, Wet Desert Ruins by Sailfrock is a semi-water level that's actually quite fun. Firstly, the open water can be traversed with Koopa shells that are found at various points in the level. Additionally, while you can collect some of the coins while swimming, lowering the water to navigate on foot works just as well. I also like that the water actually prevents you from entering this building by using wooden platforms. It's a clever little obstacle. Verdant Valley by Dragobenny is another decent romp, making use of water to create a river, waterfall, and pond. I like how it starts you out at one of the lowest points in the valley, making you climb up to reveal the surrounding kind of castle grounds aesthetic. Also, I'll note, I appreciate the idea, but I really do not like the small hedge maze, mainly because Super Mario 64's camera is absolutely awful, especially in tight spaces. I also really like how I died. Like, for real, this was great. I should have heard it coming, I should have looked up, but I didn't. The timing couldn't have been better. Another good level is Red Coins in Double Time by Mero. You might recognize both the creator and level name, but for different reasons. This level is actually a recreation of the second mission from Beat Block Galaxy in Mario Galaxy 2. Much like the original level, this one is all about timing, and either my brain is mush, or the lack of accompanying music makes this infinitely harder. Still, it's a solid level, even if the platforms aren't always solid. Rhythm Peaks by Jefftastic also uses the on-off blocks, but has a bit of spice for a dark and cold mountain climb above a dark black void that I just fell into so many times, it was ridiculous. As long as you don't mind dolphin diving to your demise every so often like I did, this should be a worthwhile challenge. Minecraft! Yeah, surprise, there is a unlockable secret Minecraft theme, but I'll leave it to you to figure out how to activate it, though I'm sure the comments will spell it out. Dig Build Reborn is a low-stakes exploration level with few enemies and only a single dollop of lava. It's honestly quite relaxing, and it perfectly recreates the Minecraft aesthetic beyond just using the textures. For way more lava, Burns Hill by Skullmaster 4 has you covered. Starting at the bottom, you have to climb up a hill of obsidian to a white and black stone castle of sorts. I didn't explore every inch of this one, but I appreciate any level that goes for verticality, and also any level that features a sick shell skate park over lava.
Get out of the street!
You might also notice that Mario's clothes are different, and there's actually another resource bar at the bottom. That's all because this level uses the non-default Beyond the Cursed Mirror theme based on Rovertronic's ROM hack, which lets you adjust the costume and give players badges, which are permanent power-ups. I didn't explore much of this theme, but it's pretty neat, and it's always nice to have more options. You know what's also pretty neat? Troll levels. I don't actually enjoy playing these all that much, but they're a staple of Mario Maker, and I'm sure they will also be a staple of Mario Builder. Troll Elevator by Kirby Super is a good example. It's simple and infuriating. You start by standing on blocks that will quickly become intangible, so you have to get moving. There's also a moving block that you have to repeatedly wall jump off of. If you go too slow, you'll end up hitting the bombs and die. And if you go too fast, Mario will get grabbed and thrown by the Moto, a beta version of a Chuck-Ya kinda, and die. It is possible to get to the top just to fall down and collect the star, but whether or not it's worth that frustration is up to you. In a similar kind of vein, Super Yalu 63 by Yalu the Guru features exactly 63 stars, one less than the max possible in a single level. From what I played of this level, it seems Yalu took the Mario Odyssey approach to star placement, rewarding the player for every individual obstacle. If you decide to tackle this level, which you definitely can, if you want, you're in for a long grind. Probably. I wouldn't know, because I chickened out after 7 stars. Switching gears entirely, Blue Coins But How by Xeon tasks you with somehow getting a 100 coin star when the only coin related mechanism that you can reach is a single blue coin switch.
Failure.
It turns out the preview blue coin that appears when you stand on the switch is actually collectible. So if you slide off the switch, or fall off, or crawl off, you can repeatedly collect the coin without ever actually using the switch, which is a neat little demonstration of a odd mechanic. Also by Xeon, No A Button is a simple looking but surprisingly complex level which forces you to cross many obstacles without the A button. Of course, you could use the A button, but you're not supposed to. I got 5% of the way through the level before I hit a roadblock, so don't feel bad if you also need to go look at the full run video, which is a great watch itself. Finally, let's talk about my level. First off, I used the largest possible size, which is 64 by 64, and most of that space went unused, because most of my tiles went to decorating the buildings. I do like how the level ended up looking, but it would have been much better suited in a smaller space. Also, I started building the level near the ceiling, so even at the lowest point, Mario has to fall 30 to 40 blocks before voiding out, which definitely isn't ideal from a gameplay experience. As for the level's layout, I made it sequentially, starting from the very start, technically the second building, looking at footage from Mirror's Edge. By the time I got to the long, thin pipe that Faith has to traverse, I realized I was going to run into the boundary wall, so I made the level go off to the left, where I quickly ran into the other wall. To deal with this, I adapted the straight path into a counterclockwise one that wrapped around this building. The gap where the player has to make a leap of faith onto some pipes was easy enough to make, but I kinda wish I'd made the jump even farther. Unfortunately, you can't move big sections of blocks all at once, so I would have to break down the whole building and rebuild it, which by the time I had that regret, it was too late. The path through the building ended up being wildly different from Mirror's Edge because I was running out of tiles. I have the player go down some stairs rather than up, and into a small duct which is kinda similar to Mirror's Edge if you squint and don't have your glasses on. At this point, I knew I wanted to recreate the moment where Faith drops from the duct and lands in a room filled with soldiers aiming at her, but my choice of enemies was limited, so I just put some sniffits which will shoot at the player, including through the wall when they collect the star around this last turn. It's not an ideal setup, but oh well. As for visuals, I eventually swapped to using a custom theme, which is where you can select what you want the water, poles, fences, and your 10 placeable blocks to look like. While this might seem limiting just having 10 blocks, you always have the option of having a separate top-facing material, so if you're creative, you could technically double your block palette. When it comes to the palette, perhaps the thing I changed the most was the windows. While there are plenty of blue and white and gray textures, some of which do kind of look like glass, all of them felt a bit dull, so I eventually settled on a mesh that actually doesn't render anything behind it. So what you're actually seeing is the skybox through it, which doesn't make sense if you think about it, but it kind of looks like the glass is reflecting the sky around it, while the other type of windows are lit up yellow boxes. I also stick with mostly square shapes to match the original game's aesthetics, with only a few slopes to add a bit of curvature here and there. That said, I did use slabs throughout to try to hide the grid nature of the editor, at least somewhat, and I even had one of the structures offset half a block by building it with slabs on either end to try to add some more variation. Overall, I think most people familiar with Mirror's Edge will probably recognize what I was going for, even if it's not the most faithful recreation. As for how it'll play as a Mario level, I don't really know. I mean, I hope people like it. I placed enemies around where I thought they would be annoying, but avoidable, which is kind of what enemies are in Mirror's Edge. Mario Builder 64, at least right now, doesn't have any way to have a built-in timer, so it might not be obvious through gameplay that this is meant to be a race to the finish kind of level. All that said, in general, my review of Mario Builder 64 is 2 thumbs up. It's very easy to use while still being able to create some relatively complex stuff. due to how accessible it is from a user standpoint. I think it's a great tool for people who want to workshop ideas for bigger ROM hacks, or create silly scenarios to mess with Super Mario 64 mechanics, or just share that one idea they've always had, but they don't want to go through all the effort of making a full proper ROM hack. You also could just totally use this to create pixel art inside Mario 64. I don't know if people are going to do that, but it's a fun idea. All that said, thank you so much for watching. Shoutouts to my members for their support, it really means a lot. If you like this video, why not leave a like, maybe subscribe, check out some of my other stuff. If there's a lot of interest, I would be more than happy to make a follow-up video in the future looking at even more levels, so if there's anything really cool that pops up, be sure to comment down below to let me know. Bye-bye!